Living life seeking answers to the many problems that continue to evolve? Whether it's about business, money, relationships, family, or anything, let's talk. Join Alan Cousin of Get Up Radio Media as he talks about anything and everything that the mind can come up with. His motto is, you can't find a solution until you talk about it first. Ready to be informed about life and feel positive daily? Then come listen to Let's Talk with Alan Cousin and get up as a positive new you.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. All right, welcome to Let's Talk with your host, Alan Cousin. Today is Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope you're having a grand day today. Hope we got out the right side of the bed, because, we always say, get out the wrong side of the bed. Ugh. But anyway, yeah, so let's talk. What are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about today with Mr. Cousin, right? Well, we're going to talk about science. And when I say we're going to talk about science, I'm not talking about just any science. We're going to talk about the world, history of science, to a point at least. I want to get really into the dramatics, but I want to talk about a certain part of science, I guess you can say. And the part I want to talk about is the pyramids. That's right, the pyramids. Those big, large statues in Egypt, as well as other countries, that are phenomenal and amazing, and brings about so many questions, like who built them? Why did they build them? Why do they exist? What were they built for? Now, before, of course, we used to always hear about pyramids being built because, of course, it was the pharaohs, and the pharaohs, when they died, wanted to use the pyramids as their big, basically, coffin, for them to basically go to the next level and the next height of afterlife, right? Which we now find out is totally false. And those pyramids were not created for just the pharaohs to be buried in, because they discovered that most pharaohs were not even buried in the pyramids. Most people were not buried in the pyramids. So then why? Why were they created? Now, I've seen many situations. I've done my own research, of course, by, trying to understand more about the pyramids. And one day I plan on going to Egypt because I want to really dig into it, find out more about it. But my thing is, it's just very amazing to me, like, how people don't realize how important these pyramids really are, and how the more we understand them, the more we might understand ourselves. See, here's the thing. First of all, let's look at the pyramids, right? The way they were actually created, the circumference of how they were created. They were actually not even three-dimensional. They were 8 dimensions. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? 8 dimensions. So they're not three-dimensional pyramids, they're 8 dimensional pyramids. Now, of course, a lot of information that we hear about the pyramids in Egyptology comes from Zahi Hawass. And let's just be honest. This gentleman, well, I'm going to be nice and call him a gentleman, Zahi Hawass, as long as you're doing or saying things that he likes, then it's fine. He totally agrees with you. But if you decide to go against his thoughts or his mindset and try to say something differently, even if though what you're saying is probably correct, he automatically says no, cannot happen, will not happen, we will not add it to Egyptology. End of story. I mean, that right there should make you wonder, why would a gentleman, if the opportunity can be seen that we have developed a better way of understanding, doesn't want to accept it? Yeah, doesn't want to accept it. Think about that. Now, they've had this theory, which I currently believe in, that the pyramids have something to do with the Orion's belt. Because you notice, as if you're looking from space, they're in the same symmetrical dimensions as Orion's belt. And they're the same circumference as Orion's belt. Very interesting when you think about that. Now, this whole thing about the pyramids being made of limestone, right? Limestone, think about that. Limestone is not something that you can easily cut through. Plus, limestone is not something that will actually go away. It would take millions and millions of years for limestone to basically disintegrate and be gone. So pick why pick or select limestone? Think about it. These things about the pyramids were not just done because they said, "Oh, let's make a pyramid. Okay, let's pick that stone. Okay, let's do that. Okay, let's make it happen. All right, there we are, Jimmy. Oh, it looks great. You love it, Pharaoh? Thought you did. Okay, can I have my 5 women or you know 5 bags of gold or whatever?" No, they were very specific on everything they did in designing the pyramids. Now, there are very interesting other theories about the situation, like Joe Parr. Joe Parr was a scientist who decided to study the frequencies of the pyramids for about 10 years. And studying those frequencies, he discovered that certain frequencies caused the pyramids to create a circumference of energy, which caused like a force field around the pyramid itself. He also noticed that if you increase the energy of the circumference of fusion and energy within the pyramid, it started to actually float and was actually transporting itself to the point that when you cut the energy off, he actually saw half of the pyramid in the wall, meaning that it went through the wall. Think about that. The pyramid was at such a speed and such a height of energy that it transported through the wall. Time travel? Maybe. Can't confirm. But definitely something to think about, right? And we all say, oh, aliens did it. Yeah, the aliens that came and they made the pyramids, and that's where that because there's no way possible that we could have made the pyramids. I mean, look at us today. We try to use construction to move the limestone now. We try to use various techniques that we have today to use a lot, move limestone blocks, and we cannot do it. Yet they say that the limestone blocks were easily moved by men 14,000 years ago because basically they put it on rollers with wet sand. Now, granted, if it's on a solid surface that's flat, yes, clearly I can see that because I will say I do have a award in physics and award in astronomy and terrible math, of course, but also award in geometry. So I do understand somewhat science. But if you're actually bringing it up 20 to 100 feet up in the air on a slanted division, I think it's going to be a little more difficult to actually move that limestone stone, which is wet sand. Wouldn't you agree? So, like I said, Joe Parr figured that situation out. Now, another thing that's very interesting about the pyramids is that they're actually symmetrical to the earth. Now, you don't think anything about that, right? Because you figure, what does that mean? Well, the pyramids, basically, the circumference of the pyramids is actually the distance between Earth and the Sun, which is about 432,000 miles. Now, think about that 432,000 miles. That 432 is a very significant number, though, because we've also realized that the time of space is at 432 hertz. Now, another thing that's very interesting, if you was to actually take every second of every day, you would come out with 432,000 seconds. No, I'm sorry, 43,200 seconds. I do apologize about that. So, no, not 432 seconds, 43,200 seconds. But still, the whole key of this is 432. See, 432, you should be thinking about this. What is the circumference of 432? Because that's a thing. Everything is going towards that number 432,000 miles, 43,200 seconds. You know, it makes you say that there's something important about those numbers 432. I mean, 4 plus 3 equals 7, 7 plus 2 equals 9. Supposedly there's 10 dimensions, even though, of course, I recall there were 9 dimensions, but of course, they say there's 10 now. So I looked at it as 432 equals 9. There's 9 dimensions. The ability of 43,200 can help with the speed of time and speed of light, which is the circumference of frequencies that, in coordination with the light and the amount of frequency and sound, you can break this actual barrier and travel through time. That's what I figured. But that's just me. I'm not a scientist. I'm just someone that's pretty good with physics, pretty good with speculation of geometry, and kind of pays attention to the numbers and circumferences. So that's what I came up with. But like I said, that's just my theory, my opinion. Agree with it, don't agree with it. Either way, we're cool. Now, what gets me though is that the actual meters of the circumference of the pyramid is 299 is 29,979,240 58 inches. Think about that. 29,979,248 inches. Speed of light is 299,792, 451.8 meters per second. Amazing how the numbers are the same. So the speed of light equals the circumference of the pyramid. Now, granted, the reason you have to really think about how spectacular this is, how amazing it is, how this is something you should really focus on is because pyramids were created 14,500 years ago. 14,500 years ago, supposedly, they didn't have mathematics. They didn't have the standards of science yet. So, if they didn't have mathematics and the standards of science yet, then why is it these numbers pop up? And why is it these numbers are so closely related in so many ways towards science and time? I mean, you have to really think about that. You have to ask yourself the question, why? I mean, of course, in everything, there's who, what, why, when, where, and how, but why is always the most important part of the circumstance. Because you always want to know why. And that's the thing. I remember one time, if you looked at the pyramids from space, you saw that certain pyramids formed a landing strip. Very interesting. And then you also have to realize that as we speak right now, they say that the pyramids are actually sending off amounts of energy signals into space, sending signals into space. Now, the question is, these signals, where are they going? And who's receiving them at the other end? It's just a question of, there's so much out there we don't understand. And yet, for some reason, there's so many forces trying to make sure that we don't get the proper answers to understand. Like, why do you not want us to understand Egypt? Why do you not want us to understand the pyramids? Why are you making sure we don't understand the full understanding what's going on in Antarctica? You know, why? But yet these things are happening. These things are occurring. And when we try to discover the answers, we're being stopped or blockaded or put barriers in front of us or distracted. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be distracted anymore. I want to know the answers. I want to know the answers of why, because the answers of why will better help me to understand me and humanity. Because we really need to think about how many lies have been now discovered throughout